going to switch gears here for the last little bit of the show. And just like we did a couple weeks ago, maybe last week. Did we do it last week? I can't remember.
Week before last,
we picked the top 5 quarterbacks in the NFL right now. As a group, there wasn't a lot of arguing, surprisingly, that we come up with the top 5 quarterbacks in the league currently. Today, we're going to pick, as a group, there's some we agree with, some we may not agree with, but collectively, we're going to come up with the top 5 running backs in the NFL, and I believe there's going to be some arguments to be made here. So, I have made a list, and I have 7 players on my list of the top 7 running backs of the NFL.
Frank, I know that you're not specifically a math teacher, but 7 is in fact more than 5.
Listen,
so we
Coop,
cannot accept that list.
I think of the 7, there are 5 on this list that are 100% we can all agree with that are top 5 in the NFL today. So,
do you know who I am?
Okay, you're probably wrong, Dave. There's no chance that you're going to name a player that's not on this list that's top 5 that's going to make it in the top 5 by the end of this show. So,
all right,
before we get started, here's what I'm going to say. Who, in your opinions, based on the last year, a couple years back, going into the 2022 NFL season, who would you put at the top? We don't have to rank the rest of them, but there is one guy that we all have that I'm sure that we can all agree with. Who would be your number 1? Who would be the first person to go on this list? Who is your?
I think this is hard. This isn't.
I think it's hard too
for me.
It's not no doubt for me, but I think.
But I've got one.
Okay, I want to hear yours first before I'm going to have it in my head.
Dave, yours is easy. Go ahead, lay it out.
Dave, go ahead.
Yeah.
Who you got?
Jonathan Taylor. I think it's no doubt he is a young stud. It's pissing me off that in every league I'm in, he was a rookie draft pick and he's been protected for like 3 years. He hasn't been available for redraft. If I'm picking a running back for my team today, it is Jonathan Taylor.
That's who I had in my head. Just saying.
I had him number 1, but it was close, man.
Okay, so we can automatically put Jonathan Taylor in the top 5.
Let's give some stats on Taylor just so people can appreciate.
I didn't put stats down because I knew Coop would have them.
That guy.
So 1,800 yards last season.
Go ahead,
18 rushing touchdowns. 5.5 yards per carry. Of running backs that had over 200 carries, 5.5 yards per carry was the highest average. Okay. 40 catches, 360 receiving yards, and 2 more touchdowns. So a guy put up over 2,000 all-purpose yards and 20 touchdowns last season. This is the most impressive stat to me. Dave's told us the first downs before on an earlier episode. What was it?
I was going to say first downs.
7.
Yeah.
That was early.
Of the fastest plays recorded in the NFL last season, like an individual player speed measured by their metrics on any play at any time from any position, Jonathan Taylor had 3 of the top 5. That is insane.
That's pretty good.
You're talking about being on a field with Tyreek Hill, who calls himself Cheetah, guys like Marquise Brown, who do nothing but run deep and hope the ball falls in their arms because they can't actually catch it. Like cornerbacks, safeties with wide open field, nobody touching them, nobody to cut around, just beeline to the ball. And Jonathan Taylor
running through the tackles.
Yeah, hit over 22 miles an hour on 2 different plays last season in full pads while evading tacklers.
And this is a guy that was highly kind of underrated coming out of college, in my opinion.
Yeah. Speed was not on his draft resume.
He didn't even. I mean, he was a Heisman finalist, but I think he won the best running back in the country that year, but his senior year or whatever year he decided to come out for the draft. But honestly, he wasn't a pick that everybody was like, "Oh my God, this is the guy," and he's turned himself into that guy. And he is going. I don't know how Matt Ryan's going to do with the Colts this year, but when he's got a running back like Jonathan Taylor, I don't think Matt Ryan has ever had a guy like that to depend on before. He's had, Freeman. He's had a couple other guys that were just kind of role players. He's not had a dude back there. He's not had, he's their primary back. I couldn't even name you their second back. I know they have one, but I couldn't even name it to you. But I know Marlon Mack, yeah, but he's in and out. Once you said it, I figured it out.
Naheem Hines on third downs.
those two used to be good fantasy picks, but now.
Yeah.
Well, Jonathan Taylor's made them irrelevant.
He's their dude. Like, that's what I'm saying. So, moving on, we know Jonathan Taylor's in the top 5. All right. So, let's see. Is there another guy for sure, in your opinions, that you think has to be in the top 5? I'm going to say it. You want me to go first? I think Derrick Henry is in the top 5.
Yep. And I think he's the only for sure. After Jonathan Taylor, Derrick Henry is the only lock. And then we can open the debate up.
I would agree with that. Derrick Henry, Jonathan Taylor, top 5, no doubt.
I will say, though, I don't disagree, you guys. I had Jonathan Taylor as 1A, Derrick Henry as 1B. I mean, Derrick Henry is a stud. He does what he does. I am worried that he might have that Christian McCaffrey career shift. He had that injury. What's going to happen? He lost A.J. Brown. They brought in Bobby Trees.
Yep.
I'm real interested to see what the Titans do with him this year.
Yep.
But until that happens, he's got to be in there. And honestly, before you brought up Christian McCaffrey, in my head, when I was thinking of the list, he ran through my head. But, I said I had a list of 7. McCaffrey didn't make my list.
Yeah, he made mine. That's too much talent, man.
I know that.
See where he lands.
He's had 2.5 good years of football.
He was the best running back in football for multiple seasons
for
on
3
a crap
years,
team
4
with
years
Sam
ago.
Darnold as quarterback and what defense?
But
look at these other running backs.
You have no idea. He has nothing to go on. He's been injured. He's played like 7 games the last 2 years.
We'll get to CMC.
Yeah, but if you're... Yeah.
Let me get some Henry stats out here real quick while we're
Go ahead with Henry.
So he played 8 games last year, right? Like Dave said, injuries could be building up, and it's because of that usage. McCaffrey was getting an insane amount of touches every season. Henry's been getting an insane amount of touches. But in 8 games, Derrick Henry finished in NFL standings for the season 9th in rushing yards. In 8 games. Some of these guys played 17.
Less than half the season.
He finished 10th in carries, which is impressive and also probably part of the problem. 8 games, 10th in carries, and tied for 6th in rushing touchdowns. Only 5 running backs in the NFL scored more touchdowns last season on the ground than Derrick Henry did in less than half a season.
Yeah, so, it's no question. The 2 that we named are in the top 5. I think we can all agree on those. So, moving on from this, do you guys have names that you want to throw out and to be in the conversation? I think here's where the debate is going to come in. And I honestly think statistics are going to kind of carry the load here. But for me, I think I have to go with the eye test and team impact overall to put these guys at the top. So, Dave, you want to throw a name out there?
Yeah, so number 3 on my list, which is, purely based off of fantasy last year, is Nick Chubb, Cleveland Browns. He didn't have his handcuff of Kareem Hunt, who was hurt most of the year, and the guy is just a stud. He carried that offense, and he's just another young guy from Georgia. He's good. He's really good.
I agree with that. Coop, what do you think, buddy?
Yeah, I had Chubb on there as well. The thing that stood out for me, I had Chubb at number 3, actually. So, Dave, kudos.
I'm going to be honest with you.
You said,
I had Chubb at number 3, too.
It came down to stats. There's only 2 running backs in the NFL last year, over 200 carries, that averaged more than 5 yards. 1 is Jonathan Taylor, and 2 is Nick Chubb. And he did it sharing touches with Kareem Hunt. Right? Double-digit touchdowns, 5.5 yards a carry. That is insane, guys. You give him the ball twice, you got a first down. And Baker still couldn't do anything in the playoffs. Right?
Hey, maybe Deshaun Watson will.
Let's not get into that one today.
I'm making an official statement here. Same I made with Baker Mayfield. Deshaun's getting too much airtime. He's not worthy of it. He doesn't deserve our time. The listeners don't deserve to hear about him. We're ixnaying Deshaun Watson from the podcast until the NFL kicks him out of the league because it's coming.
Y'all heard it here first.
Here.
No more Deshaun Watson talk.
Blacklist.
All right, so are y'all in agreement? And I want to put this out there to our listeners. If you're listening, we have not discussed this ahead of time whatsoever. We have not said one name. We have not said who do you think should be in the top 2, who's the best. We haven't said anything. And quite frankly, we've already went through 3 guys that we all are in agreement, and we've honestly went 1, 2, 3 in our list, which shows you our opinions and how much we talk to each other and what our opinions are in terms of who the best running back is in the NFL today. And so far we have Jonathan Taylor, Derrick Henry, and now we have Nick Chubb. Eventually there's going to be an argument here somewhere. There has to be. So
I've got it lined up.
I picked one. I picked I picked Derrick Henry. Dave had Jonathan Taylor and Nick Chubb. I'm gonna let Coop throw a name out there.
Wow, way to let me start the controversy off.
Coop, who you got, buddy? I think at this point is where we're going to see quite a bit of differentiation.
Yeah. I'm going to get my camera in focus real quick. I'm blurry.
Yeah, go ahead.
There we go. So I'm going, the numbers didn't jump out at me on this guy. I mean, they were good. They weren't outstanding, but the eye test is there and the track record's there. I got Dalvin Cook at 4. That's who I want. After these top 3 are gone, that's probably my pick. The Vikings aren't exciting. They're West Coast. We don't see a lot of games. Cook's done it for several years. He can catch. He can run. The efficiency is above average. He gets in the end zone. So there's a little bit of injury concern there, but it's never more than 2 or 3 games, which is expected with the workload running backs getting in the NFL. What do you guys think
mad
about
right
Dalvin
now.
Cook?
I may put a screenshot. We're recording this current conversation it's actually 8:00 on June 19th right now. I sent an email to myself with a list of names in order from who I think should be in the top 5 at 6:04 p.m., an hour before the show actually started. We started at 7.
I'll screen share my list right now.
Coop, I have Dalvin Cook at number 4. Look at Dave. This is the worst argument ever.
No, I'm axing it. I got an argument.
Okay.
I got an argument here.
Hey, guys, just so you know, if you're watching the show, that's how much you can commit to Dave's takes. He'll change them just to be different. So
yeah, he does that shit all the time.
My word is the golden rule around here. You want to stick to my advice.
And the thing is, Coop has all these like statistics to back up his answers. He's like actually thought it through. He looked at like the week 13 matchup against this team and what this kid did there and this and that. I just went on like who I thought was the best, which it's my gut feeling. And our top 4s have matched so far. But Dave's going to be a bitch and be different. So go ahead, Dave.
Hell yeah. We got to do it for TV, baby. That's what we're here for. All right, so the name I'm going to go throw out there, kind of the same thing. His stats aren't eye-popping, but he's a good young guy, Nadjie Harris of the Pittsburgh Steelers. He had a pretty good rookie year playing behind Ben Roethlisberger, who was an absolute liability, no offensive line in front of him, and I believe the stat came out that he was on the field for like 90% of the Steelers snaps.
Yeah,
which you're looking at a true cowbell back his rookie year, which is pretty rare. Yeah. And I would say that there is an argument there to say, hey, he is better than Dalvin Cook currently. And the reason I would say that is because I am a big Dalvin Cook guy. I have him in a lot of fantasy leagues, but he has that injury history, and I always grab Alexander Mattison. And Alexander Mattison, he won me 2 games this last fantasy season because he put up Dalvin Cook numbers. And, now you got to ask the question, well, is it Dalvin Cook or is it just that the Vikings have this great rushing attack? And so that's where I'm going to say, give me Nadjie Harris currently right now over Dalvin Cook.
I'm going to be completely transparent, Dave. Back when, 15 minutes ago when I said I had 7 players on my list, Nadjie Harris ain't on that 7.
Yeah, I got a pro and a con for Nadjie. I really 2 pros, but a big con.
He did make a lot of good points, though. I do agree with Dave. But he's just not somebody I thought of as being a top 5 running back right now.
Yeah. So my thing on Najee Harris, one, obviously volume is great. He has it. The biggest knock I have on him is his efficiency. So 17 running backs last year, over 200 carries. That's my threshold. If you're over 200 carries, you are a feature running back.
None of that. Not a lot of the 2-back bullcrap that we see nowadays.
Yeah, you don't see a lot of split backfield. And there was only 17 in the NFL last year had 200 carries. Of those, 4 were under 4 yards a carry. Najee Harris is on that list. Alvin Kamara is another one on there who may hit some top 5s. I do not see him there. The other 2, just to put the names with those guys, David Montgomery and James Conner. And those guys aren't in this conversation. That's the only time you hear those names come up. That's where his efficiency's at as a runner. On the plus side, out of the top 5 running backs in carries, Najee Harris is the only one without a fumble. He doesn't turn it over. 0 fumbles, not even fumble and regained. He didn't even have one. And 74 catches. That's a huge number for a running back. So I can see Harris in the top 5. He's not in mine because of that efficiency. If I'm picking a running back, I want them to pick up yards on the ground. They're a running back. That is my goal. I need to make sure that you can pick up the yards. And if you're in the bottom half of that efficiency for me, I'm not picking you in my backfield.
That's a good point. So Dave threw out Najee Harris. I'm going to throw out a name here, based simply off of the history, his engagement with the current offense that he's in, and it kind of contradicts Coop's point that he just now made about picking up yards on the ground. But we all know that a lot of good positional players in the NFL play out of position. They do different things. A lot of things.
Don't say Alvin Kamara.
I'm getting ready to say Alvin Kamara as being one of the top 5 based on his potential output and his role on the team. And he's kind of similar to the Christian McCaffrey of the world.
No.
But he's healthy.
Don't you disgrace CMC.
No. McCaffrey, I mean, you can't be the best player or one of the best players if you're not on the freaking field.
I'm going to say one thing, and then I'm going to turn it over to Dave because he's got a lot here. I'm going to let him ramble. Alvin Kamara is the most overrated running back in the NFL. No question about it. Most overrated.
Okay.
And Dave, I'll let you take it over.
Dave, tell me how it is, buddy.
Dude, his best years was when Mark Ingram was doing all the dirty work, getting the dirty yards, getting the first downs, getting the touchdowns. I mean, he's good, but if we're talking about a guy who needs to be on the field, let's not forget this guy beat up somebody the night before the Pro Bowl and still is facing, legal prosecution for assault and battery. I don't think he's even close to this list, but Frankie
played the same amount of games as Dalvin Cook last year.
Well, cross him off then.
Yeah,
quick
efficiency too.
reference.
Again, back to the same thing. Like you just said, you liked it with Najee Harris. He has the lowest average yards per carry out of those 17 running backs.
But I did preface it with saying that, like you said, he doesn't run the ball very often. He is more of a flanker, split back, catch it out of the backfield kind of guy, which is what New Orleans has run their offense around in the last couple of years. They don't run the ball particularly well, but they do throw the ball particularly well. And his position is running back. So
let's just keep that train going.
Okay.
We're talking about Alvin Kamara. What about Austin Eckler?
He's out of mine.
Yeah, I don't have him in mind either.
So, I mean, just based off of him being a split back, basically getting the catches out of the backfield, because he was the number 2 fantasy running back, and I guess I should say in a PPR league. So,
yeah, he's a lot like Najee Harris, right? He had 70 catches and 12 rushing touchdowns. Like, the numbers look good on Eckler, and seems like a really cool dude. He's big into fantasy. There's just something I don't like about the eye test. Like, I don't have a number to jump out at you. 4 fumbles last year, lost 3 of them. Decent efficiency, 4.4 yards a carry. I don't know. Something about Austin Eckler. It's not a good name for a running back. I don't know. I just don't really like him. And I love the Chargers. I'm just like, I was a big Melvin Gordon fan. So I got a little bit of resentment against Austin Eckler for coming in and taking that job. That's a little bit personal on my part.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that too. Eckler, I mean, he's a great fantasy player, honestly. But we're looking for, I guess you could say, like, toting the rock traditional style running backs. And right now, I'm going, let's throw another name out there. What about Joe Mixon?
I was waiting on it, you homer.
I have to.
Yeah.
I said 3 other names before Joe Mixon. Joe Mixon's not even in my top 5 on my ranking list. Alvin Kamara was the 5th one.
Yeah, I got
Joe
problems
Mixon
with Mixon.
He was the number 3 fantasy running back in PPR leagues. Cowbell back, Super Bowl playing team. He's just another guy. Like, he doesn't jump out to me though.
Agreed.
And that's the problem we're having now for this 5th spot, is because there's not too many people that jump out at you. And let's throw another name out there. Let's round out my 7 guys that y'all made fun of. The other guy I have on my list is Aaron Jones.
You can't be on this list with the split that Green Bay has. And
That's
it's not Aaron Jones' fault.
This is the problem that we're going to run into with this 5th spot. Like, I wanted some other opinions. Like, those are my top 7. We've already hooped my, like, Alvin, Mixon, Jones. All 3 of those we're saying, okay, maybe not the best. Okay, who do you have that would go into that 5th spot other than those 3?
Talent-wise, I don't disagree with you. I think Aaron Jones
is one
of the most talented.
You better not say Ezekiel Elliott.
No, I don't have Zeke on a list.
No, not even close.
I've got Christian McCaffrey there because if he's healthy, there's nobody outside of Taylor that I want in my backfield more than McCaffrey.
If he's healthy.
That's fine. Because
if you guys have a first-round pick this year,
a dozen.
Are you picking him first round to this year in a fantasy
draft? I have him as a keeper, and I'm keeping him.
It doesn't matter. New fantasy league, are you picking him in the first round?
No, but I'm also not picking Joe Mixon in the first round or Alvin Kamara or Austin Eckler.
But you're thinking – we've already had a conversation about McCaffrey. You're picking – if McCaffrey is as good as he has been in the past, he's been number 1 overall pick in the past. He was number 1 overall pick for most people last year. And he'll probably be number 1 overall pick for a lot of people this year. Other than
I don't think this year.
3 or 4. But, like, you fixed it for me. Okay, this year. We're talking about best right now. I don't know how you can put him as top 5 right now without him playing this year. Now, top 5 next year, hell with it. Put him in there.
We just put Derrick Henry up there with 8 games played. Christian McCaffrey played 7. Why is that a stretch?
What was
1 game difference.
What was his stats?
They were not as good.
Exactly.
But
it's Sam Darnold throwing him the rock. Like,
ain't nobody throwing Derrick Henry the rock.
He also had 37 catches in 7 games, and Henry had 18. So, like, your case for Kamara, which I don't necessarily agree with, works for McCaffrey, which I do agree with. I got CMC in my 5th spot. There's 2 other names I'd like to mention in the conversation, but to me, it's Christian McCaffrey. He's too good for him not to be included. When we're having all this conversation about these other guys, these maybes, these ifs, you got backups in Minnesota that can win you weeks. You got Elijah Mitchell, who I'd like to mention because he put up insane stats last year and could be included on this list as a 5th round pick. Like, you can get running back production. So why not take CMC and I'll get somebody off a practice squad that can go in and get me 70 yards a game.
I agree with that also. But we're putting them in the same conversation to see some of these other guys that we're not putting in the top 5.
Yeah.
All right. I'm ready to drop the bomb on you guys.
Drop a bomb, Dave.
You said it.
Tony
You
Pollard.
said Elijah Mitchell. I want Deebo Samuel.
Oh,
Agreed.
I wouldn't care. I wouldn't put.
I'm
I
on
wouldn't.
board.
I'd be all right with that.
Give that man the rock anywhere on the field. He's going to make a play.
I
Wide
agree with that.
receiver,
I like
running
that.
back.
Are we going to put our wide receiver as a top 5 running back in the NFL right now?
Well, I mean, that's the question, though. Do the fantasy sites list him as wide receiver running back next year?
It depends on
depending on his role.
So what team he's on.
Well, he's showing up for minicamp, so it sounds like he's going to play.
Yeah, but we all know how that goes.
I'm all for it. I love it.
We can make a splash right now and put him in there. I don't care.
8 rushing touchdowns, 6.2 yards a carry last season.
That's pretty damn good.
And that's not – that was out of the backfield, right? That's not like reverses or stuff.
Those are rushing attempts, so as long as the ball's handed backwards, yeah, it counts.
So of the people that we mentioned, how many of them had more than 8 rushing touchdowns?
Oh, man, put me on the spot with some quick stats.
Did Kamara have more than 8?
You're going to have to give me a minute.
We got time.
Numbers guy wasn't prepared.
Alvin Kamara did not.
Okay. He goes above Kamara.
Henry did. Taylor did. Mixon did. Eckler did. That's it. Out of the guys we mentioned.
Whoo. Listen, if y'all are in, I'm in. Deebo Samuel, top 5 running back in the NFL, listed as a wide receiver.
The same amount of touchdowns as Nick Chubb.
Oh, damn. Chubb was hurt a lot, though.
Chubb played 14 games.
Yeah,
so
no,
Chubb wasn't hurt that much. Hey, let's do it. I'm cool with it.
The only other name I throw in this conversation is Damian Harris. He had a hell of a year in New England.
He did.
He did, but it's the
touchdowns,
same
boys.
thing where Ramondre Stevens is handcuffing him.
But he hit that 200 attempts mark, which is my benchmark. You get 200 carries in a season.
You're the
That's
dude.
pretty solid.
And he's a Kentucky kid. I just don't know if he's top 5 right now. In my opinion, I would love nothing more because we played against him, Coop. Coop and I played against Damian Harris. He was a freshman. We were seniors. We beat that ass at Madison Southern.
He did stiff arm me for a touchdown. That's my favorite story to tell.
His first carry of the game.
He only ran for 200 yards.
He broke it for 70 yards as a freshman.
Yeah.
We did end up beating them, though. It was at home. It was one of our first games of the year, I think. It was early on, before district game started. He was a freshman. He was built like a brick shit house. But we did beat that ass. He probably did have 150 yards rushing on us and a couple touchdowns. But, at the end of the day, it's about the scoreboard, baby.
Yeah. At the time, when he was a 12-year-old child, he didn't really truck you. You just couldn't let him get outside. You couldn't.
I will say this.
Couldn't catch him.
I'll say this. We graduated. We played 9 of 11 seniors on our defensive side of the ball that year. Me and Coop both played defense, but the following year, his sophomore year, he broke the school record for Madison Southern's touchdowns in a single game against us. He had like 9 touchdowns the following year against us at Madison Southern. And the reason I know that is because my brother played and I went and watched the game. So,
any help on defense?
No, nobody would. Man, that was a tough game to watch. Every time Damian Harris touched the ball, he scored.
And he still do it, boys.
He had like 11 carries for 9 touchdowns. I swear to God, he did. He didn't play the fourth quarter. But anyway, I'm cool with putting Deebo Samuel in the top 5, in my opinion. I think it's technically cheating, in my opinion. But in terms of running back production, he's done a lot better than other people have.
I don't think it's cheating because teams are now referring to a Deebo Samuel role. He has created, I guess Shanahan, we should give Shanahan the credit because he's the one that's really doing it. But Deebo's talent allows him to, is this wide back position. I mean, that's what it's referred to now. And you're seeing it, people talking about, we want this guy in the Deebo Samuel role. We want him in the wide back role. And there's very few players that can fill it. I think Washington actually is in the best position because they got a couple guys Like McLaurin probably could do some. Curtis Samuel has.
Yeah, that's the one guy I think of.
And I think A.J. Brown at 6 foot 224 is built perfect to be a wide back. When I'm playing Madden, dude, that's who I want in my backfield every time. Position changed. A.J. Brown in the backfield, 94 speed, can catch anything. Like, that's what the game's going to. So I think it's a great call out, Dave. I love it. I'll put Debo at 5.
Hey, let's do it, Phils.
Hey, I will say we do have to give one guy a huge shout out because I think this guy was the first wide back, Cordaro Patterson. I mean, he had a resurgence with the Falcons this year. He's not top 5. He's not top 10. But on a bad Falcons team, he was the spotlight this last year.
I like that. Long time Chicago Bear there.
Career kick returner.
I was going to say mostly thought of as a kick returner, but now, playing some other spots. But here we are. We've rounded out our top 5. We've got Jonathan Taylor. And honestly, you can say in this order or no particular order, but I'm going to say in this order based on our opinions. Jonathan Taylor, number 1. Derrick Henry, number 2. We have Nick Chubb, Dalvin Cook, and Deebo Samuel wrapping out our top 5. That is our top 5 NFL running backs right now. If you agree or disagree, we honestly don't care, but we would love to hear your opinions. Drop them in the comment box below. Like the video, share the video, and also subscribe to the YouTube channel.